If you're preparing for your next interview by reviewing your resume and trying to remember everything you did, let's pause for a moment because remembering is really only the beginning. Strategic, effective preparation for an interview is not just about remembering what you've done, it's about how you've thought through it, how you've made sense of it all, and how clearly you can explain why it matters. That's what helps the interviewer understand you, and that's what builds trust. In my coaching work at Omni Interview, I use a tool a lot called Bloom's Taxonomy of Learning. Bloom's Taxonomy, it wasn't created for interviews. It's actually a model from the education world that describes how people move from surface level knowledge to deeper levels of understanding. I find it's very relevant and helpful for interviews. Most candidates, they stop at the bottom, level one, remembering. It's the start, but don't stay there. Remembering is when someone says something like, I managed onboarding for 50 employees, but it's just a fact. It's accurate, but it doesn't help the interviewer understand anything deeper beyond that. It's an important starting point, but let's not stay there. Let's talk about the levels that follow as we move up the taxonomy. Level 2 is understanding, and this sounds like I was responsible for designing the onboarding experience. And that's better, but we're still just describing, because at these two levels, you're listing what you did without showing why it mattered. And when that happens, your answers tend to get a bit long. The interviewer is left trying to figure out what was actually important. So let's flip the script, because a strong interview, it really starts with the way that you think before the interview even happens. At the base are those first two levels we just talked about, remembering and understanding. They're important places to start. The next level, level 3, is applying. And this means you're not just describing something, you're showing how it actually worked in real life. Instead of saying, I created onboarding materials, you might say, I realized new hires were overwhelmed. So I redesigned our onboarding to include peer support and staggered sessions. You're showing that you understand how your work functions in context. And then we have analyzing. This is when you begin to show connections. This could look something like, I noticed that onboarding delays were coming from a lack of communication between HR and IT, so I helped set up a shared workflow. You're not just describing your actions, you're showing your thinking. The next level is evaluating, and this is about making decisions or forming judgments. For example, looking back, I think the most important part of the project wasn't the materials, it was creating alignment across departments. That's the kind of insight that shows professional maturity. It tells the interviewer that you're not just doing, you're learning and thinking as you go. And finally, at the top of the pyramid is creating. And with regards to interview preparation, this doesn't mean that you're inventing something brand new. It means that you're taking what you know and using it to build a message that's clear, intentional, and relevant to the job you're interviewing for. When you can do that, when you can build a story that connects your past experience to the role in front of you, that's when your answers really start to land in the interview. So, the top level, of course, is creating, and let's talk about what that means. This is where everything comes together. Creating doesn't mean inventing something new, and it certainly doesn't mean creating dishonest answers. It means shaping your message. Another metaphor that I love is that you are helping the detective in their investigation. Is what happens when you take everything you know, everything that you've done in your career, and you use it to build something thoughtful and clear. You don't just jump to the creating level. You have to go through the other stages first. Remember what happened. Then understand what was going on and why it mattered. And then apply that knowledge to new situations. After that, you then analyze the patterns and connections. Then you evaluate what was most important. Then you can start to create. Creating is building your message based on everything that you've thought through. And that's why speaking out loud is so powerful, because writing and speaking are not the same. Writing is linear, speaking is dynamic, and you can write perfect answers if you want. You can even memorize them. Go for it. I'm not going to stop you. But when it's time to talk, your brain might freeze. The words, they might feel stiff. You definitely don't connect with an interviewer by performing from a script. Creating means speaking in your own voice. Not perfect, not polished, just clear and real. And believe me, I get it. Practicing out loud, it's not fun. It opens the door up for a lot of dissatisfaction. But here's a question. True or false? It's easier to say something the second time than the first. When you practice out loud, you notice where the logic doesn't land, but also you find your strongest phrases and you find your real voice. That's not performance, that's preparation. So if you'd like support with that, you can always explore Omni Interview's coaching options. Check the link in the description. Whether it's 5 minutes of self practice or one on one coaching, speaking is where your clarity grows. Because creating, it's not about having the perfect answer, it's about building the habit of sharing your ideas clearly. That answer that stuck at level one, I managed onboarding for 50 employees. That same experience at level four, analyzing. I streamlined onboarding by identifying three major communication gaps between HR and IT. Or at level five, evaluating. Of all my experience and in thinking about what I hope to do in my next role, I really help to leverage my ability to bridge teams. Do you notice the difference? The candidate has moved from listing facts to sharing insight. Without giving them the conclusion, you helped the interviewer in their thinking process. These answers are simple. You don't need complex grammar or jargon in your vocabulary. The stronger your thinking, the simpler your message. When you prepare at the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, when you focus on applying, analyzing, evaluating, and eventually creating, you build something more useful than any script. You build the ability to speak clearly about what you know, who you are, and how you work. That's what interviewers are listening for. So if this gave you something to think about, let me know and like the video. Also, I'd love to know how you plan on using Bloom's taxonomy in your preparation. Let me know what resonated with you in a comment. And be sure to subscribe so that Omni Interview is on your team. I regularly publish new content, so let's make sure that you stay in the loop. Clarity is something that you build, and you're already doing it. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video.